So welcome to Karen's Bookshelf. I am delighted to have a very special author who I am personally really excited about, and that is Clare Mackintosh. Clare, thank you so much for taking the time to come and have a little bit of a chat.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So this is your latest book, Let Me Lie. Read it, loved it, was totally engrossed from cover to cover. It was really fantastic. This is a book about a woman called Anna who believes her parents have committed suicide, but have they? And as we're sort of going through the book, we're following the different scenarios. What sort of gave you the inspiration?
It's actually a real life case that inspired this book. It's a case that hit the headlines all around the world, and I was really obsessed by it. But I can't tell you what that case is, as you'll know, of course, having read it, because if I told you the real news case, then it would give away at least one of the twists. So I have to keep that to myself. But what it did was it made me think about the story behind the headlines, and that's what always interests me. So not just the news as it's reported, but how did the family feel about it? How did it affect their friends, the people around them, to discover something terrible had happened?
It was amazing. I really loved it. And I think, you know, your next book, your even later book than this, which is A Cotswold Family Life. I mean, for die-hard thrillers such as myself, sort of looked at it and went, you know, what made you decide to now was the right time to do a memoir of sorts?
So this actually has been a book that's come about in a couple of ways. I've written a column for a magazine in the UK called Cotswold Life for a number of years, 8-9 years now, and the editor suggested that they would make a nice book, and at the same time I was working with a charity in Oxford that supports families going through high-risk pregnancies, and it's a charity who supported me when I had my children who wouldn't have been born without their intervention, and I really wanted to do something to help them. And so this book was something that I could do, and I donated my advance to the charity, and they've bought fetal monitoring equipment for the maternity wards. So it was a really nice thing to be able to do, and it's a collection of sort of funny little stories about family life. No murders in it, no psychological suspense or twists, just an ordinary family leading a life that lots of people will relate to.
And it's a well-known fact that you've previously worked in the police force for many years. What was the trigger that made you, change careers from being in the police to being an author?
I was working really hard in the police. I really loved it, and I gave it my all. And one time I was preparing for my chief inspector promotions, and I had to do something called a 360-degree assessment. So it's when all the people you work with fill out a survey about what you're like. It's quite a sort of, it is a fairly, it's like walking through the canteen naked. It's a fairly unpleasant experience, but you learn from it and you grow. And so I had this document that told me exactly what everyone thought of me, and it was really good. I was really, really proud, and it talked about how I was full of energy and optimism, and my door was always open, and I was happy, and I listened, and I was a great person to work with. And I took it home to show my husband because I was so proud of it. And he read it and he said, "Yeah, this is great. Who's this woman? I don't see this woman." And he was very kind about it and very gentle, but it was a real wake-up call, because I realised, as lots of people do, not just women, but perhaps especially women, that I was trying to divide myself into too many pieces, and I was using all the best bits of me for work and leaving my family with the leftovers. And that just wasn't the sort of mum and wife I wanted to be. So I took a 2-year career break to spend some more time with the family and to help the kids start school. They were 5, 4 and 4 at the time. And writing was the only thing I knew how to do, that I could do from home, that I could hopefully earn some money with, because I was the bigger wage earner. We couldn't really afford for me to stop work. And so I started doing journalism and copywriting for businesses and social media content and anything that was to do with words that I could do from home. And at the same time, I wrote I Let You Go, which was my first novel. And I've been very, very lucky with the way that's gone. And so within a couple of years, I was a full-time novelist. left and never went back to the police.
Amazing, inspirational story, and I think a brave decision to leave such a high-profile career.
Terrifying. It was. And there was also a real sort of feeling of loss of identity, which I felt when I went on maternity leave, but I felt even more so when I walked away from a career, and suddenly all those questions about, well, what do you do, which we're so terrible about asking, what do you do? And I didn't have an answer because I didn't feel I was a writer. I wasn't sure what I was.
So in terms of the future, what can readers expect?
I have got something thrillery. In fact, I've got 2 thrillery things coming out, one this year and one next year, neither of which I can talk about yet. But so rest assured, I'm not moving completely away from it. But my next novel isn't a psychological thriller. It's a very tense, emotional drama.
Claire, thank you so much for joining me on Karen's Bookshelf, and I look forward to seeing you next week.